I would have
Uh,
loved.
oh my gosh, we said we'd never do this. We
Yet
said
here we are.
we'd never do it online, but here we are. Um, I I was debating on texting you and saying, "Hey Keegan, can we do a cooldown show?" But then your fiance beat me to it. Sophia beat me to it,
Oh, she's
and
full of good ideas, you know?
yeah. Um, you're in Switzerland. I'm in Boulder. I was about to head out riding, and I was like, "Let's see if we can make this happen." We just learned how to use Riverside this morning. Um, I think let's start out by saying thanks to Road ID and Shame Butter for making this happen. This show is not possible without. It's not easy to do all this stuff. There you go. See, my colors are better than yours, but um, yeah, it's exciting, and I think we're gonna jump right into it. You just became a world champion. How
I
does
know,
that feel?
crazy. Man, it feels good. I mean, this was a big one for me this year. Um, kind of lined up well with the course being kind of similar to Leadville and the timing not too long after. So, just had to fine tune the fitness a little bit going into it. But yeah, I mean, it's been on the radar a long time and it's been a huge goal. Once I saw this course was released like last year, it was kind of I was all in on it. My last marathon worlds was I think 2021 in Elba, Italy, and I was sixth or seventh there. So kind of got a taste, like I was awfully close to the podium, and I knew like on the right day, on the right course, it was possible. So yeah, it kind of been in a way haunting me since.
Yeah, I I feel like you've been like as someone who's been kind of beside you, and we're going to get into it also. I think what your peers think, but it's been cool how close you've been to world championships, but it's never worked out. I mean, Gravel Worlds I think was another situation where if you hadn't crashed, you would have
Yeah.
been in that front group possibly. Has that pushed you to be better? Because I think that's one of the things in the Grand Prix that one of the reasons I want to be better is I want to keep pushing you. Sometimes I feel like you don't get pushed, and so have you? How has setting these goals been for you? Because I think it's hard to look that far in front of you sometimes.
Yeah. No, I mean, the World Championships has been, whether gravel or marathon or whatever, it's been a goal since I started racing bikes, I mean, I think it's almost every professional cyclist goal is to win rainbow stripes one way or another, whatever
Yeah.
discipline they may be in. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. It's been pushing me ever since, and with Italy and gravel as well, I mean, that one was also awfully close.
Yeah.
And there's always like shoulda, coulda, woulda, or whatever,
Yeah.
so it yeah, I mean, it feels good to finally deliver one.
Yeah. I think the one thing I want to say from being a lifetime Grand Prix athlete, I think that's one of the cool things also, is you get to wear this jersey quite a bit in our series. And just in racing, I think. What One of the things I think is really cool is how much your friends and peers care to see you win. Like going through it this morning, watching Russell and Matt post, it's pretty cool how we can all have competition and also how close it is and how excited we are to see you win. Do what does that feel like to you? Because these are all the guys you grew up with, right? And I think it's also interesting that we raced together all year long. And one of the first comments I saw was someone that said, "Oh well, now he's won worlds, now he has to go in Cape Epic." So like how it's been such a weird year where you go from kind of holding on to Matt at Cape Epic for dear life to kind of finding yourself again and dominating the Grand Prix back to this. How does that kind of coexist with you? Because there's so many riders that are around that.
Yeah, I mean, it is super cool. I think we have a really special community within like the Grand Prix and just in the US in general. I think, we're all super supportive of whatever it may be, whether it's, me racing worlds or, if like whatever race it might be. I think we're all like pretty tight, which is kind of special. Um,
Yeah.
and today the first descent, Cole, Braden and I dropped into the first descent of single track together,
That's
which
cool.
was super cool, like following those two. I was on my high post hardtail, like kind of on the limit a few times following those guys on their dualies. And um, yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think it's super cool, and then to, see them after the race and chat, they both had good rides and we're sending it as well. So I think yeah, it's a pretty cool thing we have. And yeah, with Cape Epic, I think in a way that left me something to prove. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it wasn't like sure there's people who go, oh, you can't race mountain bikes anymore, rah rah rah. It's more like, but also myself, I was like, man, like I can still race mountain bikes. I have to do it,
Yeah.
and so it feels good to deliver a result on the mountain bike, even though I haven't ridden it very much. Even going into this race, to be honest, I was a little bit nervous because even though I've been riding the mountain bike a bunch, most of it's been on the road and on gravel or whatever,
And
especially prepping for
with drop
Leadville
bars.
and with drop bars. I did get some time on the hardtail, but it was quick because I gravel worlds 2 weeks ago, in Nebraska. So I spent some time on the gravel bike, did that. But all that said, I think it was good prep, because I had the climbing legs and the fitness from Leadville, and then gravel worlds, kind of a little bit of sea level intensity because the altitude here was, there was altitude, but it wasn't super high, relatively speaking. If you're from sea level or from Europe, you say it's super high, but for us, it's kind of
Yep.
medium. It's just home. Like we
Yep.
started at 5,000 feet. Top of the hike a bike was 9,000 feet. Majority of the day was probably spent around six. So, yeah, I think in the end it worked out. Just had to, and I also rode a bike that, went full in for the climbs. The course was relatively smooth and fast. All the climbs were smooth. Most of the descents were smooth. They're just like some like kind of rocky, chunky, traversy bits with a little bit of mud and some really it was actually quite technical in a few bits. So the hardtail was a little dicey in a few places, but I think overall it was the right choice for me. I was super happy with it on the climbs. Like we've talked about before, the hardtail, like this one just had so much climbing, and there was no, for me, like the full suspension's nice when it's, bumpy, flat, and fast, and there really wasn't much of that. All this technical stuff was super slow, and you're kind of picking your way through it like a couple miles an hour. So I don't think the full suspension was like a huge advantage per se.
Yep.
And you know, you stand on the hardtail and the thing just goes. So,
Yeah.
and the hike a bike, there was a 15-minute hike.
Crazy.
Um, so I wanted the lightest bike possible to carry up that.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was also a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you just alluded to it. Let's kind of jump into bike setup. I think we all saw it on Instagram, but it looked like the lightest possible, meanest machine you could get.
Yeah, pretty much. I came here, with hardtail, high post, 36 tooth chainring, tiny
Yeah.
for
Wow.
me.
For you, that's crazy.
I know, because the climbs, I mean, dude, they're just relentless here, and they're so
Yeah.
steep and so long,
Yeah.
and there's no flats, so you don't really
Yeah.
need a big gear. I think I was in the 10 for maybe just a few minutes,
Yeah.
of the whole race.
Crazy.
And I did start off on 2.2s, and after pre-riding the course, I ended up going to 2.4. So I ran the 2.4 Aspen in the front, Aspen ST in the back with an insert in the rear for a little extra protection with the hardtail.
Nice.
So yeah, just kept it simple. It's cool to race on a hardtail every now and then. Don't get to do it very often. So it's like, to me, I mean, this was like a proper mountain bike race, and that's like a proper old school mountain bike, and kind of just cool.
Yeah. Now
So
it's we may even see on a hardtail again next weekend.
maybe, probably not though.
I know we won't. I think in terms of bike setup, was that kind of weird for you to make those changes, or you're still pretty confident in what you're doing going out there? Because that's the hard thing. I mean, for me, growing up in Europe racing, and growing up in America racing in Europe, it's hard to know what to bring over. You're not bringing a
Yeah,
truck over, you have to make
I did bring
decisions.
both bikes.
Yep.
I did
Okay.
bring the Blur and the Highball, so I had the full suspension and the hardtail, all the tires,
Yep.
all the options. Because I was like, also like I was planning on racing the hardtail, but it's nice to have a spare bike just in case one gets lost or something
Yeah.
breaks, or if like last minute I'm like, you know what, I actually want the full suspension, let's race it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, shout out to Matt. He was actually the one who was like, dude, I think you should consider the hardtail, because I was going to race the dually, and he's like, this race has been won on a hardtail an awful lot, and like after
Yeah.
looking at the course and like, I mean, man, it was like 16,000 feet of climbing. It's just
That's
hard to
insane.
argue with the lightest bike you can possibly have. So,
Yep.
yeah, in the end, it was the right bike for me.
Do you know the weight difference on the top of your head between a hard dually and hardtail?
I want to say like 2.5 pounds.
Yeah.
I feel like
Matters.
maybe three, because it's
Yeah.
like on the hardtail you have to run 2.4s.
Yep.
On the full suspension, I would have ran 2.2s. So there's a little bit of weight there. I mean, it's like 50 grams of tire or so. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, 2.5, 3 pounds or so. I don't know exactly the difference, but
Yeah.
just got it as light as I can get it. You know how it is. Like you have the equipment you have, and you're gonna make it as light as you can. So
Yeah. Uh, bikes or course. So we just talked about how much climbing there was, 16,000 feet. But you want to give us a rundown of the course and then what it kind of played out like?
yeah, so bunch of climbing. Thankfully, the course started on a 30-minute mostly road climb, and then went to gravel near the like about maybe 2/3 of the way up. halfway or so, whatever it was, and then dropped into a single track descent. So, which was good because I had a really bad call up thanks to my horrible Cape Epic. That was yeah. So I was like I was bib 73 and up like 63rd call up. So I was a little bit stressed about that until I saw the start, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be fine. I'm not worried at all because we have 30 minutes to sort it out before.
Yep.
And I ended up getting to the front in like 90 seconds, so it turned out to not be a problem. Uh, and I was honestly shocked at how the race started. I thought it was going to be kind of flat out, but everyone really respected the fact that the climb was indeed 30 minutes long, and you can only do so many watts for 30 minutes. So there was no like, no one just went out and rode like 450 watts. Everyone was kind of just riding threshold. I mean, I'm sure some guys were over the limit, some guys were a little under, whatever, but like no one just sent a Hail Mary. So,
Yeah.
which was not what I expected right from how I've raced, I've
Yeah.
raced in Europe a bunch, and normally it's like there's normally at least a couple guys that are willing to just risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this
So,
course really
yeah.
scared them. I think it's intimidating. Like all the climbs were 10 minutes long to an hour long. So there
Wow.
really wasn't anything that was like full gas punchy. Like I said, it started
Yeah.
off 30-minute climb, 15-minute single track descent, and then there's kind of some shorter 10, 15-minute climbs with like fire road descents, some paved descents, paved climbs, little intermittent little bits of single track with some roots, rocks, kind of some techie stuff, and it was wet. It rained yesterday night, so things were still a little bit slippery in places. Um, and then there was like kind of two really long climbs in the latter half of the course.
Okay.
And then the most technical bit was on the second long climb. There was a kind of a chunky, muddy, rocky section, like this traverse across the top, which was one place where I was kind of on the limit on the hardtail, to be honest. But I don't. I mean, I think everyone was, and they got Valero. David
Yep.
Valero was leading that section. He was also on the hardtail. He's been on World Cup cross country podiums. I think he was third at the Olympics in the XCO,
Hmm.
so he's no slouch on the bike. He can rip. So, but it was good to have a hardtail in the front behind ahead of
Yep.
me,
Yeah.
so no one was like pushing it too hard. Um, and then from there you drop down just steep. I'm sure you might have saw Cole's crash on
Yep.
Instagram. Descend down that descent, mix of road, gravel, a little dicey. We were pushing really, really hard. It was probably smoked a set of brake pads in the 6 hours. Uh, and then there was the final climb up to the hike. So I think it was in total almost 4,000 feet, maybe
Wow.
3,800 feet.
Yep.
The hike itself was like 800 feet. So let's say 3,000 feet of riding to the hike. And then the top
It's
of the hike was 9,000 feet. So you start getting up there in altitude.
yeah. It's almost as big
Um,
as Mount Lemon. Almost.
Almost. Yeah. But that one was, yeah, a mix of pavement, gravel, mostly gravel. Kind of felt like Columbine. I actually had Columbine
Huh.
vibes on that today. I was like, wow, this is like Columbine, but not quite as high.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
So what was the hike a bike like?
it was awful. Uh, about what I expected. I did a pretty good effort up it the first day here when I went out and trained just to see how long it would take and what the sensations would be like. And I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. It's gonna really suck. It took 16 minutes in training for me, like nonstop, not
Yep.
like full gas, but pushing. It was the high. I mean, I
Yep.
had the higher heart rate than riding low tempo up the climb to
Yep.
the hike a bike. So yeah, and I ended up attacking about 10, 15 minutes before the hike.
Okay.
I just felt like for me that was the right time. Guys were starting to seem like everyone was getting a little bit tired. It was deep in the race and there was altitude and there was a bunch of tacks at the bottom, so I think everyone was pretty worked. So I felt like it was a good time to go. So I just put all the cards on the table and went all in. And then went into the hike with maybe, hard to say, 30 plus seconds, give or take, and then maybe pulled another 10 seconds on the hike. Really hoofed it, was kind of running a little bit when I could. Um, I don't think I haven't breathed that hard in a bike race, like ever, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like it was like
That's
a full system was at max capacity for about 15 minutes.
for all lifetime Grand Prix athletes listening. We don't make Keegan work hard enough, is what he's saying.
I just, dude, it's like it's like a it's like a Stairmaster. Like the
Yeah.
body is not used to it. I think I might have set a new VO2 max record,
Yeah.
but like Seawald, who's won this race like 5 times and is a previous marathon world champion, used to be a skimo racer. Um, and so that's why wanted to make sure I had at least a minute plus on him going into the climb because I knew he would be really good up it. I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that I had a little bit of a buffer. Um, so like I was confident I would go okay because it's so late in the race and it's not a run. Like it's
Yeah.
maybe a fast trot in a few flatter sections, but for the most part you're just walking fast and you just don't stop. So
Yeah.
like if it was a run, I would be really concerned. I'm not great at that. So uh, yeah, that was kind of the plan, just to get there first and hopefully have a little bit of a gap because from there you descend and then there's like another 8-minute climb,
Yeah.
which was awful as well because the legs are just toast from the hike, and then you basically just descend all the way to the finish from there. So it was just a matter of going fast but staying upright and keeping air in the tires.
Yeah, on that hike bikes, I feel like we don't do it very often. You have the bike fully on your back. Are you looking back at all? Or
No,
are you just
actually,
rolling it?
I pushed the bike because I was kind
Yeah.
of like I was able to. Yeah, I tried having it on and off my back the other day when I was training, and I was kind of on the fence about it. And I figured I'd play it by ear and see what felt better. And it was kind of nice to lean on the bike, took a little weight off the feet, and was able to
Yeah.
like. I did pick it up a few times, but never put it on the back.
Yeah.
And it was full. There was also an amateur race going on that started that was
Yeah.
shorter, so there was a bunch of amateurs on the climb, as well as the whole thing was lined with spectators, which was super
Yeah.
cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Everyone hollering and yelling and giving various like the Italian who was second, like he was like I was told 2 minutes, I was told 30 seconds, so like we had no. You could look back, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Like you look back and I'm like, oh, he's there. But how long did it take to get there? Like it's so
Yeah.
steep and so slow that like, is that 30 seconds? Is that a minute? Like
Yeah.
you just don't know. So just had to push just go as deep as you could.
Yeah. You kind of just talked through it, but how did the race play out? You guys were all together on the first climb. Where did it start splitting up? How many guys did you have going into that final climb?
Yeah, it was just a race of attrition, really. I felt like every climb, someone would push. I did a fair bit of time on the front. Whenever it was steep and there wasn't any draft, I would push and try and just, thin the bunch out. And by that last climb, we started off at the bottom. There was maybe 8, and then there was 6, and then it just slowly got smaller and smaller. So it was, yeah, but there was a pretty good sized group of 20 to 30 for quite a while.
Cool.
Cole and Braden were there for a long time,
Yep.
and they were playing catch up on the descents. I noticed in a few places. And then, yeah, the race just got smaller and smaller as it went, So
Yeah.
kind of as
It's
expected, it's just so hard. Like there was some attacks, but the attacks, it made the group smaller, but no one really, it wasn't, yeah, just too high of altitude and I thought it was a gamble to really attack,
yeah.
at a full roadie style attack.
It's a crazy thing to say coming out of your mouth.
I
But
know.
I
Yeah.
want to point out one thing you just said there for anybody listening who races. You said you didn't pull unless there was no draft. This is how much Keegan thinks about things, and this is the genius of racing, is that it's not always about when you are being the strongest, it's about knowing when you can put that, when everything's on even keel, right? And when nobody can get that and you put your effort in, you know everyone else is
Right.
struggling.
And there was
So,
some time. I did spend some time in
yeah.
the wind when like, okay, like there is a small gap, like it's worth pushing this flat section to like make sure this gap stays because it's going to get steep again in like 1K or whatever it
Yeah.
might be. So sure, there was some time when I was like, okay, this isn't ideal, but it has to be done. But you
What you're thinking
gotta be
about it.
somewhat smart. I'm
Yeah.
not, I might be a mountain biker, but I am smarter than some.
I wasn't saying you're dumb, I was just pointing it out for people. I was saying
Yeah.
you're a lot smarter than a lot of us. Yeah, I mean, I guess that was a lot of I had. I mean, one thing I have as a competitor that I don't know how much you want to dive into this, but was there a workout you did a lot going into this course, knowing how hard it was, or not really, just
Man,
kind of off Leadville?
we just
Yeah,
did a lot of threshold work.
yeah,
I mean, that was, I knew it was going to be a threshold race, and so did Jim, my coach. So we were like, well, let's just do various threshold. We did like some 8 minutes, some 10 minutes. Did do some VO2 as well, just because I knew there would be some intensity. So we did do,
yeah,
30-30s, some 3-minute stuff, a little bit of volume as well, of course.
yeah,
Also, like Schwalmingen's coming, so like the VO2 was
yeah,
partially for that as well. Like, got to
yeah,
get sharp again.
yep,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, Leadville was pretty good prep. Like I said, it lined up pretty well because it's a very similar effort. This was a little more intense because you're lower altitude and the climbs are you can push a little harder and whatnot. So um, yeah, just threshold and some VO2, pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Last thing that I have to kind of bring up is I think it's just always interesting to talk through what athletes go through. You spend your whole year riding in a Velocio skin suit, and then all of a sudden you end up in a different stuff because you got to race in USA Cycling. You're in Core. Is that hard mentally, or you just kind of make sure you're ready for it, or you're doing a 6-hour
Yeah.
race and it's in your head.
Yeah, I did do a big training ride in it here. I threw it on, washed it first as I, make sure you break it in. And then I did like 3+ hours in it just to make sure, because sometimes you have to change your saddle height a few
Yeah.
mil with different chamois. And, different things just fit differently. So I wanted to get some time in it. Yeah, luckily, it was all right. Felt fine. Obviously, it was at first it was weird, but I was okay. It felt okay for 3+ hours. It'll be fine for 6 or
Yeah.
whatever. And luckily, like on the mountain bike, you're also moving around a lot. Like a gravel world's a little different because you're kind of more in a static position more. And that gravel world is you're still moving around a lot because there's so much climbing. But yeah,
Yep.
here it's like you're out of the saddle, you're descending and you're climbing. Like it's a little more dynamic. So I think it's like a little less of an impact than it is on the road.
Yeah. One thing we forgot: nutrition. Looked simple. You had a funny thing on Instagram saying you went from one race with 0 feed
Yeah.
zones to too many feed zones.
Yeah, there was a lot of feed zones. It was a little bit of a logistic nightmare actually. With we had Gabby and our Swanee and Myron over here, and then had some other friends helping out as well. So it was kind of an all hands on deck. And then they're also feeding Alexis, so I had to like figure out like how long I make it wait for Alexis because she also got help from her partner who she raced Swiss Epic with from Vera's husband. So there was her boyfriend. Sorry, there was a lot of moving parts to figure out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I think there was 6 feed zones we had or 7, so it was a lot. But
And
it
you
was
don't want to
nice.
carry water. Water's weight. You just spend all
Yeah,
this time getting
yeah,
rid of
yeah,
3
yeah.
pounds.
Yeah, so I raced with only one bottle on the bike the whole day. Basically, just picked up a bottle and a gel, never second gel. I ran C90 in the bottles, and then a little extra sodium booster later in the day in there to fluff that up a bit, and then basically just picked up gels, some caffeine gels at the end. Pretty much the same as I did at Leadville. A little more carbs here though. Went a little heavier on the carbs, a little lower altitude, a little higher intensity. So
You knew you're gonna have to jog and run. Takes more
yeah,
carbs.
exactly.
Less efficient.
Yeah, very inefficient. I made sure to get some good carbs down before that.
Yeah. Cool. Schwalmengen's next. We'll do a cool down
Schwalmengen.
episode there. What's
Yeah.
the rest of the year look like for you?
Man, that's it. Schwalm little sugar, big sugar. That's
And
it.
then marriage.
And then marriage and off season. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Keegan, thanks for jumping on. I'm gonna go do a workout finally and try to beat you at Schwalmengen.
Yeah. Enjoy. I'll be getting on a plane tomorrow. So
Yeah. We are all
enjoy
very
your
proud,
workout.
dude. Be
thank you.
stoked. It's incredible. Really, really cool. So, if you have any questions for Keegan, we will answer them in the Schwalmengen episode that we didn't answer here. This was rushed.
yeah.
Have
Got
fun.
packing to do too.
Yeah, there you go. Have fun. Tell Myron and Brett hi, and see you soon.
Will do. We'll see you.
Don't hang this up so it has to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Stop recording.